Buenos dias and good morning to day 2 of Naturally Latinos. Estamos tan emocionadas. We are so excited to have you here again and for our first keynote session. I'm going to give a couple of housekeeping announcements about the day. And first of all, I will welcome 59 people into the conference today. So we are again really wonderfully full. I have a feeling of fullness, and I'm so excited to have you all here. So some quick announcements. Please remember, if you are confused at any time about what's happening next or how to get to the next session or event, go to networking. We have so many, to reception. We have so many resources available for you at reception. We have the full program. We have tutorial videos on how to use Hopin. We have instructions for using the interpretation. Everything that will help you navigate around the conference is at reception. So please start there. And if you can't get what you need there, we also have a help session available at all times where you can message the organizers and we can help you solve whatever your connectivity needs are. Another thing you'll find in reception is in yesterday's feedback forms, people suggested that they wanted to be able to share contact information across the conference. Yes, we do too. So please fill out the additional registration form or step 2 of registration, which gives you the option to opt in to sharing your information across the conference. And once the conference is over, we will share out all the information from everyone who has opted in on step 2 of the registration form. Finally, my last announcement is, this is also in response to feedback that we got on our day 1 feedback forms. Some people had some confusion about getting into their sessions, the concurrent sessions at the right time. Today, we are going to try opening up the concurrent sessions, the queer Latinx experience in the outdoors, and what is in the Great American Outdoors Act for us Latinos 10 minutes early during the break before. This is mainly so that the presenters, the speakers can get in there early and test themselves out. So speakers, you are welcome to do that. You will see 10 minutes before. There's no break, but just before Natalie's talk ends, if you want to assemble early, you can do so within your actual session. It will be available. And with that, thank you all again. Gracias. And I turn it over to my colleague, Denise Guitarra, our Maryland Conservation Advocate at Audubon Naturalist Society.
Great. Thank you so much, Eliza. And it's my pleasure. I'm Denise Guitarra. I'm the Maryland Conservation Advocate for Audubon Naturalist Society. And it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Natali Fani-González, the Vice Chair of Planning Board in Montgomery County. And I am so thrilled to introduce her because we have worked in environmental policy and advocacy together here in Montgomery County. But as many of you have probably read her extensive bio, she is a community advocate, civil rights advocate, immigrants' rights advocate, and she's just a great person, a great human, and she truly speaks to this conference, looking at the intersectionality of environmentalism, not just looking at the environment, but how everything else interrelates with one another. So without further ado, let's please bring Natali to the stage for her talk of Without Apologies, Go Bold and Take Back Our Streets for Social and Environmental Justice.
Thank you so much, Denise, and what an honor is to be here with you. I have been attending this conference in the past, and to be invited as a speaker is an extraordinary privilege, and I thank you for that. Before I even start speaking, I think it's important to tell you why am I here. Like, how did I get to this position? As Denise mentioned, my background is on public engagement, is on immigrant rights and labor rights. Right after college, I became the lobbyist for CASA. CASA is the largest Latino nonprofit and immigrant nonprofits in the state of Maryland and now the region. They're not just in Maryland, but they're also in Virginia and Pennsylvania. And I became the lobbyist on the Maryland Dream Act. That was a few years ago in Annapolis. It took us 10 years to pass. And to me, the way I see myself is, making sure that, if you're going to do something in your life, you're really making a difference. You're bringing people together. So I started with that in mind. And then I went to work for SEIU, which is the Service Employees International Union, which is a huge labor union. I lived in Houston, where I was working for them, and also in DC. And then one day, and while I was at CASA, I was involved on the Purple Line project, this huge train that goes from Prince George's County all the way to Montgomery County. It connects or areas. It goes to the University of Maryland and it finishes in Chevy Chase. And to me, that project spoke personally when I moved from South America to Langley Park, Maryland. Langley Park is basically the mecca of the immigrant community in this region. I remember I was in high school and also working with my mom cleaning houses. So we will ride 3 buses from Langley Park all the way to Chevy Chase to clean houses. Something that it should have taken, no more than 20 minutes. It was taking us, around 2 hours each way. And my mom and I always complain, like, how is this possible? Like, you really need to have a car to mobilize yourself in this area, and it shouldn't be like that. So the Purple Line was something that I was really interested because it would make that trip really faster and easier, especially if you live in that area. So that's, as a person that was working in CASA, I was also really interested in knowing that this project, which is worth billions of dollars, will benefit the community that was already living there, my community, my family. So pushing forward, there was an opening on the planning board. Mind you, I never thought about applying to the planning board. Like, who thinks that on my, especially young people like me. Usually folks who are on the planning board are retired and old white people, not me. So I had a council member, former council member, George Leventhal, who called me and said, Natalie, there is an opening on the planning board. You should apply. Just because, you are young, you're a millennial, you're Latina, there has never been a Hispanic on the planning board, and you can really, make a difference there. I said, okay, let me try and see how it goes. Long story short, I was appointed, and that was back in 2014, and now I'm the vice chair of the planning board. Let me just tell you, it has been a wild, really wild ride. And I knew from the very beginning that when I was appointed that I really wanted to make a difference. I didn't want to be a commissioner who just sat there to warm up the seat and listen to staff. Like, for me, the only way you make a difference is to go out to the community and hear from them. Because we know, history has shown us that if you really want to make a social change, it starts from the bottom up. And those solutions, it starts from the community. They are the ones who can tell you, this is how things should be to make a difference. It happened on immigration. As the lawyers for the Maryland Dream Act, it was us young people, undocumented people, I was undocumented for a while, who really pushed the administration to have DACA, for example. And if you look at the labor rights, civil rights in general, it's people who make the difference. So that's how I approached the planning board, going out and talking to my community to ensure that I'm doing the right job, because I don't know all the answers. Also, people in powerful positions should understand, at least I understand, that we all evolved. In order for us to evolve as a society and as individuals, we need to learn, and be educated on a different range of issues. So one of the efforts that I made, I'm going to ask the team from the conference to please play the first video, just to give you an idea of the type of things that I have made happen in my position.
We're here today to make sure that people know that we're working on the Barrel-Smith Corridor Master Plan. We want to make sure that we get people's opinion, especially the folks who are actually walking here every day to go to work, to take their kids to school. We want to make sure we engage with them and they know that we're here to listen. They can talk to us in any language they want. That's the beauty that we have in park and planning, is that we have people speaking different languages. So language shouldn't be a barrier for folks. ¿Cómo llegó aquí? ¿Caminó?
Caminando.
¿Por aquí? ¿Por dónde? Muéstrame.
Se me vino en bicicleta hasta ahí nomás.
¿Vino en bicicleta?
Sí,
¿Dónde está la bicicleta?
la dejé de un amigo por ahí por las golineras y me vine a pie.
¿Y por qué la dejó en la gasolinera donde un amigo y no la pudo dejar aquí?
Es que aquí a veces la molestan, va, como hay muchos delincuentes que se la llevan y no le quitan las ruedas, cualquier cosa, repuesto, lo quitan y la dejan ahí.
Y no hay sitio para dejar la bicicleta con candado, ¿verdad? No estoy viendo.
Ajá.
No hay, ¿verdad?
Aquí no, aquí para que no hay. Sí,
no hay. ¿Cómo usted mejoraría esta área?
Bueno, tenemos que tener más cuidado por los pasados porque hay muchos accidentes de carros y me gustaría más, no sé, el semáforo hacer más cuidadoso o alguien policía o algo que tengamos aquí porque aquí en esta área hay muchos accidentes de carros.
Exacto. ¿Y qué más le gustaría ver aquí para que sea más, para que usted esté más cómoda esperando el autobús? ¿Qué le gustaría ver?
Flores. Muchas cosas que estuvieran bonito, más arreglado todo. Ajá, sí.
Hay muchos que pasan como que fueran en una autopista, pasan muy rápido y en veces pasan niños y algo peligroso.
Allá donde pusieron una luces para que la gente cruce, pero más allá, Maca, ahí con la más acá, ahí donde pusieron, donde están los bomberos, ya ahí, pero más abajito, donde hay una esta de peatones, deberían poner una cámara, porque a veces toda la gente pasa con luz roja, los carros. Por eso hay atropellos, porque llegan y pasan, y otras personas tienen que estarle tocando de la bocina para que pare.
Great. Thank you so much for playing that video. Now, you may ask yourself, what was she doing outside? Well, the thing is that what's happening is that in our community, people are working 2-3 jobs. A lot of people don't even know what the planning board is, yet we're making decisions that are directly impacting their lives. To me, I think we have the responsibility of going out there and talk to folks and get their input, how they're seeing their community and how they think that they can improve it. At the end of the day, we find out that, the same desire of quality of life that we all read in text, especially when I read, these huge staff reports, it's the same thing that people want. People want to live in places where they feel safe walking, crossing the street, where they feel that they can get to work and get a job and not spend 2 hours stuck in a car, when they feel that, they have time to leave work and get their children from school, right? To have quality of life, to live in a place where they can walk to buy vegetables and groceries. That's having quality of life, and everybody, regardless of income level, regardless of their immigration status, should have. So when I came to the planning board, I remember talking to planning and park staff and say, you know what, I think we need to be more up there and do this type of thing. And I was so happy and pleased and grateful that I encountered people who have been, working in their jobs for many years, who were totally open about that idea, to the point that we have inspired, places across the nation to do the same thing. I was invited to speak at the National Planning Conference in Houston a couple of years ago about this very effort. I've been in, the American Planning Association magazine talking about this, making sure planners understand that in order for us to improve communities, you first gotta talk to people, and get that trust and understanding that people do want to make sure the communities are safe, but displacement should also be the last resource, or any resource. We shouldn't be displacing people at all. So every time I talk to folks, especially places like Beers Mill Road, Wheaton, Long Branch, I insist that in order to make a community safer, it doesn't mean to displace a population that is already there. If that happens, then we are failing. I am failing. So that's one part. The second part that I think is important, at least for me, to stress in a group like yours, that, especially with my background, that I have, worked on immigration, labor, family issues, healthcare. When it comes to the environment, everything is an environmental issue. Okay, everything. Right now, as you may see, or I'm hoping you know, the Metro has WMATA has huge budget cuts. You know, they're gonna cut down the workforce. These are mostly people of color, Latinos, African Americans, who are bus drivers, who are riding the trains, who are working in maintenance for the metro system, who are gonna be out of the job because there's no money for them to be kept there. Now, why do you think that's an environmental issue? I will argue that, you know, if you want people to be able to, if you want people to be able to have a quality of life, you know, you need to support job creation and maintaining jobs. And second of all, supporting the public transportation system is an environmental issue. It's part of the social justice movement, right? We want people to rely more on riding buses, riding a bicycle, than driving a car. So, so one of the things that I wish will happen is that, you know, I think the environmental movement, people who are attending this very conference, should be calling your congress member, your senators, and ask them to support the stimulus package. You know, Metro needs money, right? Because it's for our own benefit, for the planet's benefit, to ensure that our public transportation system, you know, keeps moving forward and actually expands. We have another big issue happening is, well, I've been very open about this, and it's against Governor Hogan in Maryland, who wants to widen the Beltway. Instead of thinking, how can we make sure that we have trains and more trains going up county to increase ridership, he's thinking about widening the Beltway to create luxury lanes, which means people who have money, who have funds, will be able to use them. But low-income communities members are not going to be able to afford them. That's not okay. So financially, it makes no sense. Environmentally, it makes no sense either, because he takes parkland and he creates more dependability on cars, which is wrong. This is year 2020, and we're still stuck in the 1950s and 60s. So you know, there's a lot of things going on around the nation and around the world. We know the solutions. What we need is a movement, united movement, to push forward for those solutions. And labor rights, job creation, public transportation, for everyone should be part of this environmental agenda that everybody should be talking about. Affordable housing is a crucial part of our fight. Now I'm going to ask the staff if they can play video number 2. The affordable housing video, if you guys can play it. Uh-oh. There you go.
Hi, my name is Natali Fani-González. I'm with the Montgomery County Planning Board, and we're here on the streets asking people what's their experience with housing. Let's take a look.
So I'm currently a renter. I have about 3 roommates, and we rent out our house. The house is about a 5-bedroom house. I would say Montgomery County is too expensive for one person to rent by themselves, unless they're making, I would say, well into $60,000 and upward range. So I would say, as far as affordable housing, Montgomery County isn't that great. And far as just housing in general, it's very hard to find.
I'm actually homeless right now, but I'm finding rooms for rent over at the laundromats. There's postings and stuff like that, so I'm plucking the numbers off the postings, and I don't think they're too expensive. I've lived in other states before, and you know, some states are cheaper than others. Some are more expensive than Maryland. But I think overall, you get what you pay for here. If it's, you know, like, you usually get a pretty clean space whenever you move in anywhere around here. So it's nothing too much to complain about. As long as you have steady pay.
Pienso que esta zona de aquí pienso que es muy costosa, pero en Silver Spring puedes conseguir mejores rentas, mejores opciones, mejores ofertas, pero esta zona es muy costosa.
Y última pregunta, en términos de porcentaje, ¿cuánto dinero mensual va a la vivienda? ¿Cuánto porcentaje de tu cheque va a la vivienda?
o podría decir como un 70%, sí, ya, bastante. Yeah.
One of my paychecks covers it. So after that, it's done. So out of the 2 times I get paid, one of them is dedicated for the rent.
It's not a challenge for me to pay my rent, but for people that need affordable housing, I do think the housing is very expensive here in the county, especially if it's in close proximity to Metro.
Thank you for playing that video. So if I can leave with two things, two asks for you to make, I would say public transportation and affordable housing should be central part of the environmental movement. You know, having the right to have a shelter, having the right to live in a place that you call home and you feel safe, that you can have your family, especially if this pandemic has shown, is the importance of and understanding how the inequality that we have in this nation when, you know, we have little kids who don't even have internet in their homes, you know, and they had to go outside in front of or outside a restaurant to be able to get internet, or who has parents who don't have a job because they're being laid off due to this pandemic. So affordable housing has to be core of it, and making sure the housing is near jobs. We had this updating the general plan in Montgomery County, and I've been doing different talks and interviews with people since 2019. Right now, we just finished a public hearing on Thrive Montgomery, or Montgomery Prospera en Español, and I did one session in Español, in Spanish. It was wonderful, and I did it over the internet. It was a virtual meeting, and people kept talking about the same thing. You know, I live all the way up county. It takes me 2 hours to get to my job in DC on Silver Spring, and I'm tired. I cannot afford to live closer. Why is this an environmental issue? Well, because people are depending on cars. So we need to come together and demand at this point to build more housing. That's the only way really to solve one of these issues, especially within the Latino community. You can drive in any neighborhood in the Washington, D.C. region, and you can easily find 2-3 families living in the same house. Why? Because they cannot afford to live in a place, and because why? There's not enough housing. It's that simple. So creating more housing is essential. Making sure that we create more jobs is essential. Something that has caught my attention, especially during the public hearing on Thrive Montgomery that we had last week. It's like certain segments of the population keep saying that the pandemic has shown that, you know, more people are going to telecommute, right? That we're going to be more dependent on virtual meetings, just like we're having one right now on this conference. But let me tell you something. The people who, you know, clean, you know, the hospitals, the people who work in the grocery stores, the people who you continue seeing, you know, building projects or driving buses, they don't get to do virtual meetings. And that's our people. Those are the Latino, African American, low-income people in our communities. We need to speak for them. We need to ensure that jobs are created. We need to ensure for low-income people and middle-income people, we need to ensure that more housing is created. And we need to make sure that we live in communities that are safe, you know, to cross the street. You know, it pains me that Aspen Hill, one of the most diverse areas in this county, Montgomery County, you know, has one of the highest rates of crashes going on. Why? This community was built many years ago when people were just thinking about moving cars. So that's why you have Georgia Avenue, Connecticut Avenue, with, you know, 4 lanes. And now you have a low-income community who lives there. And guess what? They ride buses. So they walk to the bus stop. You know, they walk to the grocery store. So they're walking, you know, 4 lanes to cross the street. Why is this an environmental issue? We need to be promoting more people, you know, supporting more people taking buses and riding a bicycle and crossing the street. But we need to make sure it happens in a safe manner. So that same passion that we have saying, you know, climate change is bad, let's have the same passion and push for changes. We know the solutions. All we need is money. And to get the money to implement those changes, we need groups to advocate for them, people to advocate for better parks, right? We want to make sure that our communities have places to go that are beautiful, that they can feel proud, so they can, exercise, they can just read a book, they can just, chill with their little children. And for that, we need money. So, and it should be part of this. Thank you for the 5 minutes. For this, for this conference, linking labor, transportation, safety in our communities to have the right of crossing a street. I live in Wheaton right now, and there is a bypass or underpass in Glenmont. And when it was built, it was about making sure people will go on Randolph Road very fast without thinking that the community who lives around that neighborhood, which are low-income people, walk to cross the street. You know how many accidents? People have been killed recently crossing Randolph Road. So, these are people who are walking to get on the metro or ride the bus, doing the environmentally thing to do, right? Because we want them to ride buses, but all of a sudden we forget how people get to those bus stations. So, and the last thing, because I think I have only like 2 more minutes to say, and I know I talk a lot and it's hard when I don't see people's faces. I will say, when I took this position, I knew it was about making a difference. I'm bold and I speak my mind, and I don't think it should be about making a difference and not about my political career. Like, I have taken positions that are probably a big no-no in the political arena, like, pushing against tire waste in our playgrounds. Why? They produce a lot of heat, and that's bad for the climate, for the world. Or pushing against, artificial turf in our communities. There was a big thing going on in Silver Spring on Ellsworth. When I pushed against it, I lost that fight. But, if you really say that you believe in climate change, that you need to fight it, then you need to make sure that you're not contaminating or water streams, right? Because all that turf ends up in the water streams, and then it goes to the oceans. And guess what? If you like fish like me, you end up eating all those toxics, all those bad things. It goes to your system. So what are we doing? It's happening. It's 2020, and we still don't get that those decisions that would be bad, making, we need to be politically conscious, not just do things and both things because you want to move up your political career. You got to do things because you're making a difference in the world. So for those of you who are thinking, going into elected office, getting on the planning board, I'm up in 2 years, and I don't think I'll be chair ever. I just don't have the right attitude, as I was told. You need to understand that if you're in a position of power, you need to use your power to make a difference for your community, not for yourself. And fight for those things that you believe, making sure that your community is being heard. If they're not coming to a hearing, then you go out. I think I've been the first person ever getting on the getting on the bus to interview people, so their comments are on the record, right? Because it's important to me. So with that, I thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much to the Audubon Naturalist Society for inviting me, and to all the sponsors who made this event happen.
Okay. Natali, we are so honored to have had you. Thank you so much for speaking and sharing your truth. Everyone, the next sessions will open in just 1 minute. And guess what? They just continue to be these incredible conversations. You can hear from some federal policy experts about what the Great American Outdoors Act means for us Latinx. And those are in spaces that are both big natural spaces, but also Great American Outdoors Act funds will be spent on urban spaces as well. And you can hear from these incredible young people in the Queer Latinx in the Outdoors panel. So thank you so much. Gracias, Natali. Please enjoy the next session. And I just want to add a big, big thank you to our sponsors as well for making this conference so possible. Thank you all.